Before I start, I want to kind of know who's in my audience before I say really heavy jargon stuff. Who of you is a UX researcher? Woohoo, one. I made friends with her earlier today. If you've been to her talk earlier, that's great. Who calls themselves UX designer, UX unicorn, UX... Engineers? Oh, welcome. Oh, I'm excited. Product manager, product owner, CEO, driving your own product? No? Good. Then I put it on you to drive to your CEO that you're going to make better products. My name is Feenstra Kuiper. I'm from the Netherlands, but I live just across the border in Sweden. And I am a UX researcher. And every time I come to Norway and I meet UX designers, they say, "Are you really a UX researcher? Is that a job? Is that a title you can have?" My computer doesn't want to show more. Oop, no, I don't want to do my... is that a job you can actually have? And then I start to talk with these UX designers in Norway, and they always come and say, "I actually don't have time to do UX research." And my goal, just from across the border, is to bring more UX research competence to Norway. You have to be better in doing UX research because your customers are the ones that you're serving, and you need to make a great product for them. And if you don't know if you're making great products for them, then you're doing something wrong. So I hope that after this 20 minutes, you will run one type of research method. I don't care which one, hopefully the one I'm going to present about, but let's see. I arrived by bus, because it was bus for tog, as it always is. And on Saturday night, it was cold. It was bus for tog, both on the Swedish side and the Norwegian side. It was cold, it was raining, I had my luggage, I was tired, and I thought, I'm gonna hop on a Voi and go home. I was shaking a little bit, so I opened the Voi app, and it says, "Reaction control, let's check if you're drunk." I'm like, okay, let's do this test. And I've done this test drunk and succeeded. I was not drunk Saturday night when I arrived. I was cold, and it was raining, and I failed the test. So I can pass the test when I'm drunk, but I cannot pass the test when I'm cold. It's not really working, right, these reaction tests? And this is what happens all the time. We use the products on places where it's maybe not designed for. You maybe want to find your route to a hytte without internet. You want to create a Spotify playlist when you're semi-drunk with someone else on a Halloween party. You want... Oh, what is happening? Oop. You're working from somewhere where you're maybe not supposed to work, but it's really nice weather, so we're working from outside and we ignore the fact that we can't see anything on our screen. We are downloading apps when we're running late for a hospital appointment, but we have to download this new parking app because if you go to Östersund Airport, you need this specific parking app, so we're quickly downloading that. We play Duolingo on the sofa when we're relaxed, but apparently we're also playing Duolingo on a concert. And we are playing Candy Crush in the ski lift, because for God's sake, we cannot ruin our strike. So we're playing and using apps and products on very different places. Then why do we run our tests like this, in like such a clean lab, where there's a researcher sitting next to you looking and saying, "Oh, yeah, what are you doing?" And like look for help and then we go to our stakeholders and say, "The product works, amazing." And then the product actually goes out to the real world where Kim is getting out of the train or the bus and cannot unlock her Voi because apparently she's drunk. If you've been at the other UX talk before, or you've seen this slide before, probably, when you pick a research method, you think about if I have a behavioral question or an attitudinal question. Do I want to know what people actually do, or do I want to know what people say about they do, or think what they think about your product? On the other axis, we have the qualitative and quantitative, and I hope you understand that. So this is the matrix where we look at when we are picking our research methods to figure out if our product is going to deliver value. Normally, we do usability testing, which is up there. This is pretty behavioral and pretty qualitative. We are looking to hear from people saying, I am lost, I don't know what to do here, I can't find this button. That's what we're looking for. But this doesn't bring the product into the real space where the people are actually using the real product. So if we look at all the other I keep on pushing the wrong button, I'm so sorry, people. If we're looking at all the different methods that are out there, I highly prefer to do a field study, where you actually go out to the people and observe them in their natural habitat, going through their natural struggles. What are they doing day to day? Where are their post-its hanging? What are they forgetting? That is by far my ideal method to gain insights. But sometimes it is a little bit hard to go to an oil platform and hang there for a couple of days looking at people, or to go to the faraway countryside to see how people do their finances. It's hard, so we don't do that. So we fall back to the usability study, which is not giving the same element of depthness of your insights. That's why I started loving doing a diary study. A diary study, sorry, this is a quote, this is not mine. A diary study is a contextual, qualitative, longitudinal research methodology used to capture user behaviors, activities, and experiences. You can take a picture of this, or in normal English, a diary study is a type of mini journal where you figure out what users really need by giving them daily prompts. This is a longitudinal study, meaning that you're talking to your users not only today, but also tomorrow, maybe next month. Some studies can take up to a year, although I do not recommend that to anyone right here. Back in the days, when the first diary studies came to the market, they sent pen and paper and a throwaway camera to the user and write on your experience every time you cook, or every time you do something creative. So they try to document every day or over a week how users show that different type of behavior. It's really cool when you do that, because you get photos of real kitchens and they look very different than your kitchens. And if you've managed to build some trust with this user, you get the real messy pictures, and that tells you so much data. And then when you look into the data, you can see the patterns and the real behaviors that are actually happening behind the screen. I started pressing the right button. When do you use a diary study? You can use a diary study when you're interested in understanding micro moments. So not when you're sitting in a clean interface, looking at an app. You want to maybe see a diverse experience from a diverse audience. I've lived in Stockholm for 5 years, and I might have said the words, the people in Norrland, they know that delivery takes longer. We don't have to think about that. And now I live in Norrland, and I'm so angry that I said that, and I'm so angry at all the people that don't think about the people that don't live at the place where the research is taking place. I love running diary studies in different places in the world, and you get such different insights from people in Texas that I would have never met, because I will never go to Texas. You can also run a diary study when you want to see an experience over a longer time. How is the development of this product in your life over time? But basically, when you want to figure out what is happening in the moment, that's when you run a diary study. I want to talk to you about 2 different case studies, because I'm a freelance UX researcher, so I help a lot of different companies with understanding their users. And the first one is where we wanted to understand how people listen to music in general. If we would run an interview, they would probably say, I opened Spotify, I was at a party, it was great, or, every time I go to work, I listen to Spotify on my bike. But we wanted to do deep dive and actually see, when do you listen to music during the whole day? So we asked these users to make a diary study for a week, and write at least once a day, but you could write more, how they listened. Did you listen to music today? And please share a moment where you listened to music. And we got so much great input. We got an input from the user saying, I hopped in the car and I actually turned on the radio because it was a short route. Couldn't be bothered to set up my music sound system. Listen to the radio. Or another person saying, I come home and my spouse was already playing music. I didn't like his music, but it was already on, so I could just continue with the vibe. Listening to music is so much more complex than us thinking, we just open this one app and we always listen to it. So asking about these micro moments gave us so much more insights to help our product to develop to a whole other level. One thing is to ask about behaviors. The other thing is to ask about how you use a specific product. The second case study is where I want to figure out how users onboarded to this specific product. Sorry. This specific product had a freemium model with a tryout space for 7 days. So it's free to use for 7 days, and then you have to make a decision on what you do. This was a little bit hard to recruit for, because if I would ask anyone here in the room, like, hey, can you please start using this product? You will do it because I pay you money, and you will give me pleasing answers. So I recruited for users that already were using the competitor, and they were not happy with the competitor, and they were open for trying out a new app. We did the onboarding together in an interview, and in this interview, I tried to figure out, are they genuinely interested in using this product, or are they just here to get paid? And if they were genuinely interested, I invited them to the diary study to write up every day, have you used the product, yes, no, and like, how did you progress it over the day? After 7 days, I sent them a longer interview to answer with very in-depth questions. And this showed that 7 days, 7 days is not enough days for them to create a habit into using this new product. So we were shooting ourselves in our own foot by limiting it to 7, while a longer time span could have created better habits. The other thing is that they did not know what the app costed after 7 days. That was pretty bad. And then when I asked them, give a guess, they said astronomical answers. Well, the app was actually very cheap. Another thing that if we would have communicated this better, which we did communicate it, they just didn't read and understand it, because in the real life, you're not reading all the pop-ups, do we? So this gave us insights in how we can improve the product. Insights really don't come from labs. They come from real people using real products in real environments. Outside when it's raining, outside when the sun shines, outside on an oil platform. We need to go and see what people are doing in this environment. Are diaries, the studies, answers to it all? No, they're not. We are biasing the user by inviting them and asking them to participate every day. There is potentially a very high drop-off rate if you don't build a relationship with your users, or if they don't think it is important what they're doing. You have to over-recruit with at least 50%. Also, it's not cheap if you want to do it very simple and use software that does all the work for you. And finally, it is still self-reported. If they don't want to show the messy kitchen to you, then you don't get to see the messy kitchen. But building this trust with your user can help them show their messy kitchen to you. So, in the following 6 minutes, I wanted to teach you how you can gain insights behind the screen. First is, what do you want to learn? Second one, setting up the research. Third one, run the research. And fourth, synthesize and drive impact. You cannot synthesize and throw away your insights. You have to go to your CEO and say, I learned something, and you have to see it too, because we're going to make our product way better than it is now. Question 1, what do you want to learn? You should align with your stakeholders and figure out some type of focus area that you can narrow your research down on. You need a focus in your research, because if you want to figure out everything, you're going to get everything, and you're not going to find any patterns, because it will be all over the place. It doesn't have to be super specific, but as I mentioned before, how do people listen to music? Or how do people onboard? How do people use a checkout? Try to figure out what is it I want to figure out in this diary study. Next step is to set up the research. Here are 3 levels. First is you have to think about the prompts. No, we're not going to AI prompt engineering. You're going to sit down and think, what do I want to ask the user that will help us understand more on the topic we want to understand more? You create a set of questions, and you decide, how often do I want to ask this question to the users? Do I want to run it for 3 days? Do I want to run it for 7 days? Or, as I mentioned before, do I want them for a year and maybe ask once a month? How often did you go to the cinema this year? I'll talk about that. So think about what you want to ask and how often you want to ask it. The next step is to pick your tools. I'm not sponsored by any of these. I have used some of these, but you can use these tools if you want to run a diary study and you have a lot of money in your company so you can pay for these products. If you don't have the ability to go with these products, which is half of the time in my case, you could send pen and paper and a disposable camera, as I did back in the days. Or you can go with a combination of a messenger tool that your user is already using. Last time I used WhatsApp, and I sent them a video ask link. I highly recommend this. It is a service of a type form, where you can pre-record your own video and make it a little bit survey-like. So I ask a question via my video, and they say yes, no, and based on their answer, they get follow-up questions. Oh, tell me more. Why did you not use a product today? Or tell me more. How did you use a product today? It's a really good way because the user gets to see you and think they're talking to a real human, but they can do it at a time that suits for them. And if you let them answer with a video, you get way more data than if someone writes, because writing is hard nowadays, so people are lazy, you never get the insights. So I would really recommend to go for videos. Then we have to recruit, and this is actually the hardest part of running a diary study. You could recruit external users via a recruitment service, which is really great because you get people that know what a diary study is, they know what's expected of them. They will show up and they will do the job, but they're maybe not your real customers, and they're often also professional testers. They do this for a living. So that comes also with some downsides. You could also recruit internal via your own panel, reaching out to your clients, go to customer service and ask if you can reach out to a few users. You can recruit however you want, and both comes with pros and cons. Officially, you should recruit 16 to 20 people. I never do that. I think 10 is more than enough, and if I have 8 results on the table, that is what I'm aiming for. So I recruit for 10 and make sure that I get 8 participants that make it to the end. Then we run the research. Check in with your user every day. Quickly glance over their answers, because they're gonna say stuff like, am I doing it right? Or they're gonna ask you questions. So make sure you glance over the questions and answer them and say, thank you for your response today, you're doing great, or thank you for your response today, answer the question that they have. In this way, you minimize the fact that they are probably going to dump you after a few days. Build this relationship with them. And then we synthesize and drive impact with your insights. So you could do synthesis hand by hand, going over all the data by hand, figuring out what are the patterns. Or you can use tools. Again, comes with a price tag, but I also think it's very worth it. And then we show videos, snippets, stories to our stakeholders to make them understand that we have real users in the real environment. If you don't have time for synthesis, which happens apparently here pretty often because people don't have time for research in general, you can run something which I call a empathy power hour. You grab your team, you book them up for 1 hour, and you're going to watch these videos together as a team. And gosh, that is so impactful. Because your colleagues are going to see real users for the first time complaining about something they've never even thought about. And they get so inspired that I often hear engineers calling our participants by name, like, oh, Johan, he really had a problem. We really have to fix this for him. So if you don't have time for synthesis, let the team do the synthesis for you. I really hope that you're thinking that, or understanding that the diary study lets you hear from real users in real situations so that you can improve using your service. And having this knowledge can allow you to improve your product. So I want to challenge everyone here, because running this research doesn't take more than a sprint, to actually run a sprint before Christmas in your sprint planning. Run a diary study, and if you do not have any insights, you can send me an email and I will come by and buy you a fika, because I believe that everyone will learn so much from seeing real users from behind the screen. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think there's time for questions, but if you have a question, you can meet me up at the stairs.